was our biggest takeaway from the Denver Broncos' overtime victory over the Washington Commanders? Did Bo Nix and Sean Payton silence another potential narrative surrounding their offense in 2025? And how confident are we that the Broncos have a playoff/Super Bowl caliber running back room right now on Monday, December 1st? All things to come on today's rundown. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 1043 The Fan YouTube channel. You can find us at Denver Sports 1043 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're watching us on Facebook or on X, we love you. We appreciate you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss a moment with us. And you especially never want to miss a moment on a Monday when we welcome in our friend of the show and NFL insider to the stars, James Palmer. James, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How do you guys broadcast this on all those things at the same time? Who handles all that? Do you handle that, Richie?
James, I don't pretend to know the inner workings of how all the scheduling works out.
I feel like we're everywhere right now.
I have a fantastic producer, Trey, behind the scenes who clicks a lot of buttons, presses a lot of things, and suddenly at 12 o'clock noon every weekday on all those different platforms, bam, there's your face.
There we are. My face, your face. We're everywhere. We're on MySpace. This is on MySpace too? Or
you know what? I wish that I could find out because I have a MySpace account that I don't think I can ever delete because I used a fake email to sign up because you can still do that.
Oh.
But now, in order to get rid of it, you need to access that email, but that email never existed.
Wow.
Me and Tom are going to be friends forever. From here on out.
Yeah, you and Tom.
James, it went into the wee hours of the early morning on the East Coast, but the Denver Broncos did complete yet another one-score, gut-wrenching, heart-stopping, cardiac-inducing victory that has become kind of commonplace for them this season over the Washington Commanders. It was their 8th one-score win of the season. They're 8-2 in those settings, with their only 2 losses in that category coming from last-second plays with zeros on the clock. So, James, what was your biggest takeaway from the victory over the Commanders before we get into some subsets and specific situations?
I think what you said is exactly right. Found a way to win, and that's important. Sean was very bullish about that on the podium, and I think rightfully so. You find a way to win these games. And if you're a playoff team and a team that has high aspirations like the Denver Broncos have, even when you don't play your best, maybe defensively, when that's you got one of the best units in football and a backup quarterback and Marcus Mariota.
Oh, geez. Mariota
goes out there and plays actually very well against you. I think I've said on here a lot is when you're that type of team, your best players make plays in the biggest moments. You and I have had that conversation a lot, right? And we're going, that's when puts you over the edge. Closers in games, right? I think that's one of the things that the Chiefs are struggling with. They can't close games defensively. There's no closer over there anymore because Chris Jones is exhausted. But anyway, Nick Bonitto's a star of this team. He's a star of the NFL. And he makes a play at the biggest moment to win a game. That's Von Miller stuff, right? That's D. Ware type of stuff. That's what happens when you have players that are stars and you pay them handsomely to, in the biggest moments, close out games and win games for you. And to me, that's what stood out, that they're starting to be that type of team to where we may not have had our best. Teams play up to us. I think we got to start realizing that because the Broncos are coming to town and you still find a way to win. To me, that's what stood out the most. And I think Sean's right for his approach post-game, in all honesty, about with some of his comments.
You mentioned Sean getting a little testy, a little feisty after the game. And we actually have, for our viewing audience that maybe didn't get to see it after the game, a response from Sean Payton when the question was essentially asked about the atmosphere and the environment. And there was a notion in the question about whether or not the Broncos escaped with a victory. Take a listen.
Sean, what was the locker room like after the game? Was it wild celebration or a feeling?
No, it was loud. It was loud. No. We don't escape. We won. We won. And so we won a close game in overtime. But it was, loud, smoky because we have a smoke machine, loud because we have a sound machine, all the above.
Smoke machine, sound machine, W, all of the above. But you know what, James, like you said, I'm glad, I think, that notion was put forth. Because let's be frank about it. I kind of mentioned it in the introduction to my first question to you was they're 8-2, James, the Broncos are in one-score games. And there have been some tightrope walking, high-flying, kind of stressful situations. You're talking about one of the most miraculous comebacks in NFL history against the Giants.
Yep.
You scored 18 points in the fourth quarter against the defending Super Bowl champions. You had to fight to come back to beat the Houston Texans, to beat the Raiders, to beat the Jets. All of the above leading to where the Broncos found themselves in primetime on Sunday Night Football against a backup quarterback, regardless of how you pronounce his name. But which, by the way, it's like he's been in the league 11 years. You know what I mean?
So can't get it right. I don't know. It's very interesting.
There's a part of me that goes like, hey, if we haven't corrected something over the course of a decade, then maybe it just is what it is. But I am old enough to remember when his name was Tyler Beatty, and now it's Tyler Bidet, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. But,
Tyrod Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah. Tyrod. Yep. But James, on the notion of escaping, I personally think it's fair for members in the national media who I think definitely feel this way, certain members here locally and even within the fan base, to say, hey, you know what? The Broncos have kind of played escape artist in some of these games. They have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, and it took some potentially difficult to replicate circumstances in order for it to happen. But on the other hand, James, it's continued to happen. They have 6 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime this season. They're 8-2 in one-score games. So how much credence, despite Sean Payton's kind of pushback on it, do you think there is to the notion that, hey, the Broncos have found ways to escape losing situations in games, and maybe that's not such a bad thing?
It's not. Well, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I mean, when your back's against the wall and you have players that find a way to make plays, that's everything. And there's an emphasis in that building all the time about end of half, end of game, and gotta have it moments. And I think you have a quarterback that plays really well in those moments. I think he has a lot of poise in a lot of those moments. I think he feels like it slows down a little bit in those moments. He doesn't panic. I mean, the end of half throw is about as good of a play you'll see from a quarterback. And the fact that he was under pressure immediately, Richie, right?
Yeah.
And to move up in the pocket and move the way he did with the clock where it was, and to make the play that he did is really all that you need to know about the way that he operates in big moments and when, you know, you're short on time and all those things. I think you could almost say something to knock every contending team in the NFL right now. Like, and I think that's been the way this year has gone. I mean, look at Denver's at the top of the AFC, right? Then you have the other team. Let's stick with the AFC real quick. The other team that's right up there with them, and they're going to play tonight in New England. What does everybody say about New England?
Cupcake schedule.
They haven't played anybody. Look at the quarterbacks they've played. They haven't played any quarterbacks. Okay, there. All right, then discredit them. The Broncos, all they do is have these strange comebacks at the end of games, and you know you shouldn't be winning some of these games. Are they real? Are they legit? Like, okay, like the Bears at the top of the NFC are the exact same thing as the Denver Broncos. Honestly, they've won a lot of these games late, and they won a lot of them in dramatic fashion towards the last play of the game. A lot of these ones. Caleb Williams has been up and down in a lot of games and then finds a way to make a play late in the game with his athletic ability or his arm or something like that. And Bears aren't for real. Who's for real this year? Like the Rams just lost to the Panthers. I still think the Rams are the best team in the NFL. I do. But I think you can find like these ways to nitpick all of the contenders that are out there right now. And I think this is the one thing that everybody says about Denver. But when I look at the team, I go, it is a formula to win late in games. You have outstanding special teams. You have a really, really good defense. You have a quarterback that plays pretty big in big moments. And you have a really veteran play caller that runs the offense, that has a great understanding for time management and a great understanding for game management. All that is a recipe for success in these moments. And I think that's one of Sean's traits, honestly, in terms of how he prepares his team for these type of moments and the emphasis they have on it.
You know, James, there's been a common thread, I think, amongst the majority of the Broncos wins, not against, say, the Dallas Cowboys or the Cincinnati Bengals, which were kind of blowout-style victories by point margin. But it kind of feels like when you walk away from a Broncos win this season, save for those 2 examples that I just mentioned, the phrase is, hey, well, it wasn't good, but it was good enough, right? Against the Chiefs, the Broncos really struggled to run the ball, but it was good enough without J.K. Dobbins to get a 3-point victory. Hey, the offense sputtered for 3.5 quarters against the Giants, but it was good enough given the explosion late, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm starting to question now, James, because of what you just pointed out about the complete upside-down parity nature of the AFC and really the NFL at large this year. Given the fact that the Broncos are sitting atop the AFC again by virtue of tiebreaker, and we'll see how tonight's game with the Patriots and the Raiders shakes out, at what point does being just good enough translate to just saying, hey, they're good? You know, this is a team that can make it happen in the postseason the way they have in the regular season. At what point, if it hasn't happened already, do we kind of have to acknowledge that potential scenario for the Broncos, that them being just good enough on a week-to-week basis and a game-to-game basis is evidence that they're just good enough to make it happen in terms of a Super Bowl run in 2025?
I think that's all you have to be. I mean, you have to be good enough on that day to score more points than the other team. And I think what Denver's doing while they're going through that is they're bringing along a quarterback in his second season as they continue to try to, develop him and grow him. Because, all honesty, he's not a finished product. I mean, who is at that position early in their career? And you're still trying to do that, and you're still winning football games. I mean, the parallels with them in Chicago are pretty similar, honestly. Like, you're seeing Caleb Williams grow as a quarterback under center and the play action, stuff he never did in college. And you're developing him. He's still only completing like 57% of his passes or something like that. But Ben Johnson's trying to develop him the right way. And I think Sean Payton's doing the same thing. You could go back and just lean on the stuff Bo's really, really good at instead of developing him properly, because you're going, oh man, look at this defense we have. Look at this team we have. And look at these games we have. Let's just make sure we play to all of Bo's strengths. I don't think they really essentially do that, Richie. I think they're still trying to grow him as a quarterback and expand what he does and build him up the right way instead of leaning on things maybe that he's very, very good at, and try to expand him as a player and still find a way to win. If you win when you're not at your best, I think you're a winning team, honestly. And nobody's at their best each and every week. Like I just mentioned, the Rams lose to the Panthers in one of the bigger upsets that we've had this season. And I think that last week was when we were all saying, okay, the Rams are the best team in football. Clearly, nobody's debating that. Then they go lose to Carolina. And so everybody has their missteps and their issues. The Rams still had a chance to win that game, and they didn't. There's times where you may not be at your best, and Denver finds a way to win some of those games, or the vast majority of them right now. And the point I brought up earlier, I'm looking down the list, like, tell me a team you don't have a massive question marks about when the Jaguars are sitting at third and the Ravens at fourth. I mean, we have tons of questions about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and that offense, and the Chargers and what's going on with their offensive line. Like, you could pick apart every team. I love that there's this parity, and I love that all these teams have these flaws. And look at the team in Denver that is sitting there going, I know we're not perfect, and we have some flaws, and the run game's an issue, and our quarterback's still developing, and it's been up and down. We're 10-2. We still find a way to win each and every week. And you want to be headed this way as we're now in December. They put themselves in a really, really good spot.
I think it's fascinating. You brought up Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and some of these other quarterbacks, right? And I was having this conversation with one of our cohorts here at the station earlier this morning, that if you go back to draft night, the night that you basically scooped the nation on the Michael Penix move up and trade, sitting on the air with us at our draft party, but you look at the quarterbacks, the way that the board fell and all of that, and if you had looked into a crystal ball that night, or somebody had, and they told you that, hey, a year and a half from now, the two teams tied atop the AFC are going to be the third and sixth quarterback taken off the board tonight, and the leading team in the NFC is going to be the number 1 overall draft pick. So 3 of the 6 quarterbacks taken in this draft a year and a half from this night are going to be at the top of their respective conferences more than 3 months into an NFL season. I think that would be fascinating, especially when you throw in that the second overall pick last in his rookie season went to the NFC Championship game.
Exactly. Yeah, so, that's what I'm about to say. And Jane Daniels isn't part of what you're saying.
Yeah, and you haven't – I don't think you've really seen a quarterback class that maybe drew that hype and level of expectation since that 2018 draft class, which was hyped as the biggest since 1983 when you had, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson sneaking in as the 32nd pick, Baker Mayfield going 1 overall, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a really strong indictment on the strength and the quality of this draft class and the way that they're all starting to bloom or potentially boon positively or negatively just a year and a half in. And so for Bo Nix to be able to put a feather in his cap that he's the first in the race to 20 wins as an NFL starter compared to his peers, I think is pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also a little bit of a narrative still surrounding Bo Nix, despite all these positive things that he can kind of put in his feather in his cap, that says, yeah, it's good, it's great, that's cute, but I don't know if I can't trust him yet. I don't know if I can trust him, right? And maybe it expands to Sean Payton and Bo Nix as an offensive unit because they are essentially tied like this for the extent of the start of his career. So I heard Damian Woody say it on ESPN this morning. I don't think the Broncos are the best team in the AFC despite their standing because I can't trust the quarterback yet. I've certainly heard that echoed, in a national sense over the last handful of weeks or so. So I guess my question to you, James, is with the Broncos sitting where they're at, atop the AFC, tied with New England once again, what, if anything, does Bo Nix still have to do in your eyes to reasonably and respectably garner that level of trust on top of the resume he's put together over the last year and a half with the Broncos?
I think people want to be more consistent, right? I think they want the accuracy to be more consistent, the deep ball accuracy to be more consistent. He loves to play on the move, but to be more accurate when you're on the move. Operate this offense a little bit more consistent. I mean, like you look at the way the fourth quarter played out. That's with a lead. That's not what you were looking for in terms of the way this offense moved or lack of movement before that drive in the overtime that was outstanding. But I think it's this, like when you're phrasing that question, I'm sitting here looking at the standings. I'm going to play a little game with you.
Okay.
I'm going to go right down the AFC from Denver on down and tell me like the trust level that you have in these quarterbacks. Bo Nix is here. The next one's Drake May. What's everybody going to say? Hasn't played against anybody.
Right.
I think he's played outstanding. He's played great. I don't want to take anything away from Drake May.
Sure.
But if he's going to say, well, he hasn't competed against anybody. Okay. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to say there's no level of full-on trust there with the up and down career of Trevor Lawrence, which is much longer than Bo Nix's right now, and maybe even more inconsistent, specifically turning the football over. Lamar Jackson right now, like I don't think anybody trusts the way that offense is operating. He's in the biggest slump of his NFL career. Justin Herbert, man, everybody questions Herbert from time to time, playing great and then not getting somewhere. Daniel Jones, like they've plummeted back to earth. Now he is playing with a broken leg, which I'm not sure how he's doing that.
Crazy.
Which is nuts. But I mean, the last 3-4 weeks, I mean, it's not the same player. He can't move. But like everybody's going to say now, I told you so. Daniel Jones was going to turn into a pumpkin. Let's go. Josh Allen and the Bills. Josh Allen and him and Patrick Mahomes are probably two best players on the planet in terms of athletic ability and just what we've seen in their careers. You have a lot of questions about that offense. I'm already down to number 7 here. CJ Stroud at 8. Like there's tons of questions about CJ and his accuracy and the things that have gone on. I think there's question marks about all of these guys right now in the entire FC. I think that's why we have such a interesting look heading into December and heading into the postseason, because I think it's going to be which quarterback gets hot and plays really good football. I've mentioned a lot about these defensive fronts across the league and how important they've been. Who doesn't turn the football over, who doesn't take a lot of negative plays. Bo doesn't really hurt the team a lot. And the way the Broncos are built, I don't think it's, I don't think it's a terrible way to play. I also look at some of these other teams. We're looking at these young quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels has Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz. And by the way, I think we saw a different Washington team than maybe everybody was thinking. Like they've gotten healthier, and you can see why they were as good as they were last year. I mean, they've just been dealing with so many injuries through the course of this year. When you have Terry McLaurin and Debo and Zach Ertz is still like, is this a Hall of Fame career for Zach Ertz? Like you have all these different players around at the skill positions. Like, and Denver has a young group at the skill group. Caleb Williams is dealing with, I think, a really good group of skill guys around him. So I think Bo is doing fine. I think what everybody wants is, and they're seeing it, is like, I see the flashes. I see that drive in overtime. Okay, where's the consistency? I'd love to see some consistency because we know how good the rest of the team is. I think that's what people are looking for. And who knows, that can grow and happen, and he can play a stretch of really, really good football, and that could certainly happen in the postseason.
It is time to hit the turn, presented by The Birdie Bar, Louisville's premier indoor golf bar. Check them out online or on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. James, I want to pivot here briefly to another specific subsection within the Broncos offense as a whole, and that is the backfield situation that they have going on with R.J. Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Tyler Bidet, all kind of coming together to try to, as a sum greater than the individual parts, make up for the loss of J.K. Dobbins. I mentioned earlier in part of our discussion that the narrative about being good enough certainly has applied to the Broncos' run game. It was good enough to beat the Chiefs, but it wasn't that good. I think you could apply a similar moniker to the Washington Commanders game where it was good enough. I think they had, as a team, including Bo Nix, right around 80 or 82 yards of rushing offense. Again, good enough to win by one in an overtime setting against a team that has certainly had a lot of things break their way and has, frankly, struggled to defend the run in good stretches of this season. But I don't think it's quote-unquote good enough by most people's measures if you're talking about a team that you expect to make a fortified postseason run and potentially a Super Bowl run in 2025. So where do you come down on the Broncos backfield right now, both from a personnel standpoint and the way that Sean Payton has chosen to kind of deploy his various pieces?
Yeah, I'm concerned. I certainly am. I mean, I feel like this might be a theme of our show today, but it was funny because we kind of had this on our show on The Athletic with Chase Daniel and I this morning on Scoop City. Thank you, man. About the Broncos and the Bears, because they're the two teams that nobody thought would be atop of these two conferences as we're hitting December. And Denver, and you look at Denver's run game, you look at Chicago's run game, very, very different. Chicago's really hit their stride with two backs, and Ben Johnson's brought that same run game that he had with the Detroit Lions now to Chicago, and they're running it really, really well and playing decent defense. They're not as good as Denver at all, but they take the ball away. And I look at some of these other teams. I'm concerned about the run game. You saw in this game, I think R.J. Harvey has a lot of talent. I think he can be a good back in this league for sure. Did you see a lot in this game of him reverting back to the stuff that he did in college and the stuff that I was told a lot about, of always looking to bounce things outside? Running between the tackles is hard. Like, it takes a lot of trust. I remember having that conversation with Maurice Jones-Drew earlier this year, and he was like, do you know what it's like to trust it, that it's going to open, that you're going to go and you're not just going to get smashed from the side? Like, he always finds a way to try to bounce things out a lot, R.J. Harvey, and stay in the middle of the field the way J.K. Dobbins does. You're missing a lot. Dobbins was playing great, and there's not really a solution, to what you lost in J.K. Dobbins. So, yeah, I think figuring out what you want to do in this run game and making sure that Bo Nix, and I think you and I have said this, and I've said it on multiple things on The Fan, I expect him to be part of their run game. When the run game hasn't been working in Kansas City, what has Patrick Mahomes done? He's been a big part of their run game when they can't get it going. And I think Bo is athletic enough and smart enough, and you saw it Sunday night, that he can take off and steal yards, honestly, as parts of this drive, parts of these games. And so I'm concerned about the run game. I think Dan Quinn did do some things differently. They stayed in bigger personnel for a lot of that game, which I think was, he's a good coach, and he found a way to kind of improve some of their issues defending the run. But yes, I think it is a concern. I think Sean a couple of weeks ago wasn't lying when he said, we're going to probably have to rely on Jaleel a little more than we planned, obviously. But this is the cards they're dealt with in the running game. And I think this is when you're going to rely on where you spent the money. And where'd you spend the money? And big uglies up front. Those guys, if they open up it the right way, and if they're run blocking successfully, that'll help any back find a way to get some yards. So I think they're going to have to be creative with it, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. And that kind of leads me into my final question here for you, which was predicated off of something I heard Sean Payton acknowledge in his post-game press conference, one of which was that Dan Quinn and company did deploy some things defensively that they weren't necessarily prepared for. They stayed in their jumbo, their heavier personnel, which caused Sean to maybe try to pivot and get some different looks out of various things to spread them out. So I think that definitely did contribute to what I saw. But he said something else in there when he was asked specifically about the confidence in R.J. Harvey and the contributions to the room that perked my ears a little bit. Take a listen.
Does the trust in your run game utilization change without a veteran like JK?
It's nothing to do with the runner.
How did RJ?
Nothing good. We're going to watch the tape, but trust me, it was just some looks where the evaluation will be on how we blocked it and then the scheme relative to what we were seeing defensively. The runners were good.
Okay, it had nothing to do with the runners, and the runners were good, right? Sound familiar?
Kind of like that I said.
Sounds like what you said.
Yes.
And when I heard what Sean Payton said when he said it last night, I don't want to say that it caused me to necessarily worry or freak out or panic or anything like that, but it did kind of make me go, okay, the runners were good and everything was good. It was more about just the looks and how we blocked it. But James, they're averaging less than 3 yards per carry on a consistent basis within the room. And RJ Harvey, if you take out his long run of 11, was right around that 2 yard per carry mark. And I think that run of 11 might have come on the very first carry of the game, or certainly early on against Washington, which brings the question that's been posed on our social media channels and in one of our weekly polls here at the station that I will ask to you, James, which is, do the Broncos need to add another body in that running back room as they continue the backstretch of this season and ramp up for the playoffs? There was some smoke around the potential. I know the Broncos were heavy in on Dameon Pierce after he was released by the Texans. Pierce instead had opted to go to Kansas City and start on their practice squad. And I think that drew a lot of raised eyebrows because of the potential opportunity that's clearly there for the taking here in Denver with the absence of J.K. Dobbins. But whether it's somebody like a Deuce Vaughn or taking somebody off of a practice squad somewhere around the NFL, James, do the Broncos need to be aggressive still in looking for another potential body to help them replicate some of the success that they had with J.K. Dobbins that so far has not been able to come from the remaining room around him?
Yeah, let's be clear. Whoever you pick up off the street, it's going to be very difficult for them to make a massive impact from December on. But yes, they're going to be looking. My understanding is they are going to be looking. And so you're going to be doing your job if you aren't looking, in all honesty, if the room itself is not performing the way that you want it to. But you also have a young back and a rookie that you need to rely on, and you need to develop, and he needs carries, and you need this to grow, and you need it to grow quickly. And if teams are going to do certain things like you saw Washington do with staying in heavy personnel, I think that's when you hope that the acquisition of Evan Ingram comes into play. And you can take advantage of his speed in the middle of the field. I mean, that route on Bobby Wagner and the space that they created for it, like that play, I know it was outstanding. It was 41 yards and it helped them win the game. That's what they were looking for when they got Evan Ingram. That type of mismatch, that type of ability with Sean's offense to kind of have that jerk route and be able to, go and create something in space. And you have an athleticism mismatch. I think, again, this all comes into the creativity that they're going to have. Now, I would say this. There are some teams that haven't run the football all that well. I think Seattle is probably one of them, but they consistently run it. I think sticking with the run and at least giving the threat that you're going to run and don't abandon it entirely is half the battle. It really is. And play callers get away from it. Andy Reid's probably the biggest culprit of it because he always thinks there's certain passes that could be part of his run game or whatever it is, or the RPO. Just when you talk to defensive coaches, Richie, it's always like, at least they run it. And sometimes just running it and not even being successful at running it plays a factor. Would you rather be successful? Certainly. Would like the amount of carries that Javonte Williams has on first down in Dallas is absurd. And they're great at it. And it makes the entire offense operate better. And it makes the down and distance on second and third down that much different, for sure. But at the same time, I don't want to see them abandon the run, even if it's not going well, and make themselves one-dimensional. Again, you have a mobile quarterback. You have other ways you can kind of create with it in some instances. But yeah, you got to be looking. You got to be trying to find ways to get that room better. It's hard in December. It really is. It's a shame that they've lost it in J.K. Dobbins, because at the same time, I think we'd be talking about Denver a little bit differently, honestly, if Dobbins was healthy right now.
Yeah, I think it would change the conversation. And to your point about the effort and the commitment to just do it, I think we went a large stretch of the season last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers where they were top 3 in rushing attempts and bottom 3 in yards per carry between Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. And certainly they didn't reach the pinnacle of the season that they were hoping for, but there is a method to the madness of just kind of committing mentally to do it, knowing that you're probably going to take some short-term losses for hopefully a build up and a long-term gain, whether that's in the fourth quarter, on the fourth quarter stretch of a season, etc. So
you know what helps it too, Richie? Real quick, you know what helps it? Hit on your deep shots.
Yeah.
If you connect on some deep shots, it's going to make your life run the football a lot better.
Yep, and that is something that Bo Nix, through self-admission, and obviously our eyeballs told us that, especially against the Chargers, struggled with in early portions of this season that he did not in the backstretch of his rookie season. And I think that, again, everything that I'm viewing this Broncos lens through now, because of the position they've put themselves in, is what does this team need to do to be able to make a run for Santa Clara and the Super Bowl? And that maybe wasn't how I was thinking before the start of the season, but with new information comes new evaluation and expectation. And I think that that's where we're at with this Broncos team. So certainly
Don't say that to Sean Payton, though. He'll say it's a silly question.
Right. Silly question. It was. And there's a part of me that's like, the question I believe that you're referencing is like, hey, is the number 1 seed a realistically in play for you? And if I'm Sean Payton in this situation, I'm going, we are the number 1 seed.
We are the number 1 seed right now.
And we're 13 weeks into an NFL season. So of course in a 17-game season where we're number 1 with 4 to play,
there's one bye. There's one bye. Of course I want the number 1 seed.
Yeah. Anyways, James, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your Monday contributions every single week. Can't wait to catch up with you again after, with the way that the NFL weekends have unfolded, but the amount of upsets, I believe it was 7 upsets that we saw so far in this NFL slate, and the way that things are kind of shifting and turning in both conferences, it's going to make this dash to the postseason very interesting.
This weekend's insane. Like this weekend coming up, when you the Texans could more or less eliminate the Chiefs this weekend from the postseason, and they're red hot. And then you have the Cowboys who are red hot as well, playing the Lions. Like that's essentially for the Cowboys season. There's games all over the place this upcoming weekend, where we're going to get a little bit more of a clearer landscape, maybe of where some of these teams at the bottom of the playoff picture are going to be sitting. It's going to be awesome. This was a good week. Next week's going to be really good too.
Yep. Can't wait for it. We will listen for you across all of our different shows on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan, on your podcast with The Athletic and Scoop City with Chase and Diana. And we will catch up with you again on this show 1 week from today. James, thank you so much.
Yep. You got it.
Appreciate it. To the rest of you out there, have a wonderful rest of your Monday afternoon. Remember to like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan YouTube channel, and we will catch you tomorrow at noon for the next rundown.
I do what I love what I do. It's second nature to put in the work.